I've already discussed about role of internet technology in activism, right? So today I'm going to discuss about role of internet technology in democracy. So there is not much differences in uses of technology, new media technologies, ICTs, information and communication technologies, in associational program and non-associational program. So when we are talking about associational program, here we are actually talking about formation of organizations and role of internet tools, technologies, internet platforms, various new media tools. In developing that associational attitude and program is important. It is a bit different also to understand it because theoretically we do have different kind of you say dimension to understand what is associational, what is non-associational. But if you look into the very basic philosophy of political even political science or politics, it is all about forming a government, right? It's all about understanding the self-government. Understanding the self-government, it is all about understanding that organization and taking the best of your participation. So that's how we understand and interpret politics, right? And to achieve a public good, and that too through organization. So without having an organization, without having an capability to governing yourself and for self-governance, you actually cannot see that you are politically adept. Okay, so we are political animal just because we are social animal, and that's why we are also political animal at the same time. We are social being, we are social being, and we are political at the same time, and there is an inherent tendency to form an organization, right? So when we talk about those very like theoretical dimension, a very brief theoretical dimension I'm going to talk about. We might have heard about the liberal individualistic stand. Liberal individualistic dimension is basically the very first one. The second one is the communitarian self, and third one is deliberative self. If you see, in each three dimensions, self is being involved. Self means ourself, our own self, the personality is involved. And when you talk about the liberal individualistic dimension to understand the democracy, it's about using the technology to get the based optimum response, which is based on informed choice by one individual in any kind of online forum. So when we try to interpret the liberal individual that dynamics or individual self, and that too in online sphere, it is all about getting the best of our individual soul to take the best choice in terms of taking any decision, making any decision, and also answering any question. That is what we understood it that way. But we have different definition. Liberalism has a different definition. We talk about minimalistic paradigm and all. So I'm not going to make it that theoretical, but when you say about this liberal individualistic dimension of democracy, it can be first experienced in that cube experiment in the USA. So where uh, the household which are subscribed to cube program are supposed to and even compulsorily giving an informed choice to the program whether they are liking it or not. And also make an argument over the program. Okay, so each household will make an informed choice on the cube experiment. If you go through the cube experiment, I'm going to write down it. Cube experiment, that is a kind of experiment based on liberal individualistic choice. Okay, and that is a part of democracy. What do you understand by democracy? Is a capacity to govern by the people, and that too also for the people. And sorry, okay. Uh, So when you are talking about this individualistic dimension of that democracy, it is all about when individual can take an informed choice. So market democracy, we talk about market democracy. So many e-shopping sites are available nowadays, right? So we can actually make some individual choice, but not necessarily that can establish a democracy. So where media is also there, media can establish a democracy. In what way media can establish a democracy is that media can provide some programs and also get this interpretation from the individual, and that too at the instant. So instantly get the interpretation from the individual. So we have that later to editors and phone-in programs are there. Some kind of liberal individualistic, you say, program. So by nature they are liberal individualistic program. We also have a communitarian kind of understanding of different program. When you say communitarian understanding, this is basically we are talking about the virtual communities and the forums. Okay, virtual communities. So here communities are formed driven by one spirit and one goal. Communities are mobilized around one goal. So communities are not public. Okay, so that is another kind of like the spirit which you get to see. Spirit of democracy you get to see online, and the third spirit of democracy is basically based on this the deliberative intent of individual being. When you say deliberative intent is all about our discursive mind, which is actually based on our intuitive comments, okay, and also rational critical self. So that is there in many kind of forum. Even you see that a forum which is not communitarian but which is deliberative, which will encourage comments from the individual, not necessarily that comments will be mutually compatible. Okay, so I'll come back to it again to give an understanding about all three approaches. So these are the three dynamics, three approaches to understand the democracy online. Democracy online, we also talk about this e-democracy. We talk about this e-voting. So these are some criteria to understand the democracy online. E-voting, you are given a list of choices where you can vote for. Okay, that is also kind of e-voting. But list of choices are given and you can vote for is a kind of liberal individualistic approach or like paradigm. So which you can exercise in terms of uh, prevailing this e-democracy. Okay, so e-voting concept is there. So a group, a political party can also um, can provide you the list of that choices or also issues in their manifesto, and also take your concern. And there is also a criteria, close-ended criteria, whether you support it or not. So that is entirely made from that liberal individualistic dimension, but you do not have much to deliberate upon it. But when you deliberate on any kind of issues, that means you are very critical of this issue, not necessarily that you are supposed to think about what other people will think, what you are deliberating, whether other one will like it or not. So irrespective of others' choices, others' opinion, you are giving your own choice is what a deliberative intent of democracy or deliberative approach of democracy. And communitarian approach is different, where we try to achieve that mutuality. And there is also a pre-discursive will. It is called pre-discursive will or pre-given will. Even in all three approaches, you get to see that will is there, your will is there, and participants' will is there. So willing is there, willing to participate is there, willing to participate, willing to comment, willing to provide an opinion, willing to provide a view is there. So, and this has been, you say, executed, materialized, you say, implemented, and it is possibly implemented because of that ICT, information and communication technology. So we also had a Kabul experiment. Kabul experiment was there, especially in USA earlier. So that also made a community get entertained through the Kabul experiment. They are having a forum after getting exposed to some of the program. So when you discuss about community media also, it has a role in even establishing a democracy. Okay. But I'm not going to go detail about this community media, but you actually know some of the projects. Suppose the East Mojo project is also there. They're trying to um, uh, create a kind of enrichment, calling itself as a community media itself. It's Mozo itself is a community media, right? So it is a community media, but it has got that corporate intent because it is funded by Google. But when you are talking about a community media, basically it is supposed to be owned by the community, and it is also driven towards a single goal, and that goal is pursued by each and every member of the community. That goal may be related to, you see, participation or achieving some of the communitarian end, okay, related to the community, related to the interest of the community. So when there is a communitarian self in democracy, so definitely we talk about the betterment and improvement of the whole community. If majority of the community is satisfied by whatever program, whatever welfare activities are being undertaken, whatever program are being sown, then definitely communitarian intent of democracy is being served. But whenever we talk about deliberative intent, it is a bit different, deliberative democracy, because it is not about serving the majority. It is all about having your opinion, your deliberation on an issue. It is not about saying simply yes and no. You deliberate on an issue, you reflect upon your rational and critical self. Each and everyone has a rational critical self. So issues will be given. So these are the problems of the nation, these are the problems of the state, and the issues will come up on a platform, and then you will give based on your opinion and choice by deliberating upon the issue. Not necessarily you are trying to create a consensus or mutuality. You have provided your opinion, and that's how it will come into a conclusion which is satisfactory for all. Suppose we are talking about team spirit nowadays, right? So team spirit, you also see whether team spirit is a liberalistic one, and that is also communitarian one, or deliberative one. Most of the time we see that there should be single goal, and everyone should harness their capacity towards the goal, towards fulfillment of that goal, right? That is what is team spirit. But when there is a deliberation, nobody will be left unattended. So it's an everyone's concern, it's an everyone's um, preferences and taste will also be considered, because there will not be any kind of pre-will given will phenomenon. So issues are there. This is my interpretation. I want it to get it executed in this way, through which my interest will be served. Perhaps it looks like a liberal individualistic dimension, like liberal individualistic choice, informed choice. But at the same time, ultimate goal is to benefiting the whole community. But the individual interest of each one will also not be unattended. Okay, so hence when we are talking about the role of community, online community, we see this Facebook community page is always different. There is also closed community, open community. In closed community, hardly any space for deliberation you see. There are deliberation, but it is much more narrow. I have discussed about this narrow casting, that attitude of this online communities. Even they are too very narrow, narrow in terms of goal, in terms of their reflection also, because they do have special interest, and they want their interest to be served through discussions and deliberation. So there is a limit on deliberation, and the scope for deliberation is very limited in any kind of community. You can now you will also be, like, in third semester, fourth semester, you will be doing research. So this might be another, like, that area of research, these virtual communities around, okay, how they are performing. So, because not many research has been conducted, the interface of virtual communities, the content of the virtual communities, whether it has helped in establishing a deliberative democracy or not many research has been conducted. Many research have been conducted. So you can actually work on it. So you can actually see the extent of their extent scope of deliberation of those communities. Okay, but yeah, community sentiment is fulfilled. Then you also see some of the deliberative forums are there, even bulletin board, even email also at times much more deliberative than even communitarian form of that tools. Okay, and when you talk about this cube experiment, that is cube experiment was there, QUBE, you actually go through it, and there is also vote.org. This kind of experiment has been carried out in USA and in European countries, and vote.org, where you get to see list of issues which concern public, which list of issues that concern public are highlighted, and public has a role to uh, put up their informed choice on these issues, or any kind of opinion, any kind of views they can put up on. So it is actually based on that informed choice. So we haven't actually come across this kind of experiment, but yeah, you see there is a two-way kind of communication which has happened with this digital technology. We are also going to discuss about digital diplomacy and how ICTs are using in the conduct of public diplomacy, and how you see this ICTs and information and communication technology, internet and mobile phone are being used in political communication, in even party politics, in internal politics. So it is important, it is used, but at the same time, whether it has been two-way process, or it has established, helped in establish the democracy or not, is important. What is the outcome of introducing ICT in political communication? How far we have accomplished to make our democracy much more vibrant than before. So that is the outcome, and that should be the concern actually, and that's why I have introduced it in such a way. And then what we actually see is that we have Minnesota e-democracy. That is a kind of deliberative democracy project, Minnesota e-democracy project. You can actually visit the site. And also vote.org, where you get to see list of items calling for attention of the public, and that is not a deliberative democracy, that is a liberal individualistic project, where your opinion is scope of opinion, giving opinion is limited, but yeah, you are given list of choices to choose. Okay, but you essentially cannot argue. In that case, your scope for deliberation is limited, but definitely you have a choice to sow. That is your liberal intent, liberal democracy. That's how liberal democracy also perform. Okay, we talk about liberal democracy here in India, so we can go and can vote. Not necessarily we can actually deliberate on the issue. There is a talk show, deliberate on the issue, but there is also limit, that scope of deliberation is also limited. There is a moderator. So every time there is a the a issue which get a critical point of deliberation, that moderator will actually abstract that whole discussion, right? So that is happening, so that there is a limit of deliberation in Indian democracy, you get to see. Now we see that when we are talking about different ICTs which are used for uh, diplomacy. So diplomacy is a very interesting concept. When you are talking about diplomacy, you might have also heard of this concept. You might have some understanding of this concept, part of advertising. So many people also said that it is a PR concept, that is a public relation concept, but it is different from public relation, because PR is also definitely related to reputation management. It is also related to that impression management. Equally, we say that public diplomacy is also a reputation management tool, and that reputation building and perception management tool. But it is about ability of one nation to create a perception about the nation among the domestic as well as international public. Okay, so creating an environment which is very positive inside and outside India about a nation, about a state, is what public diplomacy. So it involves basically various government programs, sponsorship programs, exchange programs are there, intercultural communications, Even it involves this cultural democracy that emphasize of our asset, our traditional asset, 5,000 old civilizational asset. Emphasis on yoga is also part of public diplomacy. So that is one thing, and interacting with the diplomats, interacting with the foreign secretaries is also another aspect of public diplomacy. Uh, as well as you see that interacting with the public outside the nation and also domestic public is also part of public diplomacy. So that's how we usually understand public diplomacy, and this is not something which only the foreign secretaries or ministries can do. But definitely, we first need to take the name of the ministries, Ministry of External Affairs, and also foreign secretaries. But apart from that, media also has a role in public diplomacy in terms of publishing the report of the nations of the state. And many a time, public diplomacy is equated with nation building. Okay, nation branding. Both public diplomacy and nation branding are a component of nation building. Okay, so when we are talking about nation branding, it is all about how we brand the nation. A bit different from public diplomacy, how we brand the nation, create an image about the nation, unlike uh, an ongoing interaction with foreign public and domestic public. So nation branding was different because the concept is highly economical. It's economical concept, economy based concept, and it is targeted towards some homogeneous consumers. Unlike this public diplomacy, where we have some consumer, not consumer, citizens across the nations or beyond the nations in public diplomacy to have exposure about how our foreign policy is formulated, the extent of the government activities, how it is being conducted, and also creating a favorable environment among the public so that they can also like public across beyond this beyond India, so that they can show interest to come and invest in India, are some of the you see uh, aspect of public diplomacy. So, nation branding concept is very new in that case. You see, it was initiated in 1996 compared to public diplomacy, which was initiated in 1965. See, so it was a very old concept. And when we are talking about the role of digital technology in diplomacy, use of ICT in the conduct of public diplomacy is important. So the scope of studying the digital diplomacy is limited because it is all about, you see, the pages, okay, that you have, that web pages of Ministry of External Affairs, and Twitter handle, Facebook pages, then YouTube streaming videos, that subscription of the videos, and also about likes of the videos. Okay, so that you basically study when you study the digital diplomacy of Indian government. So they used the way they used the digital technology in enhancing their image and enhancing a positive environment across the nation and outside the nation to form an image about India. Is what we talk about, public diplomacy. Okay, so goal of public diplomacy is different from the nation branding, and we also had traditional diplomacy. Earlier, what happened that diplomacy is understood as a communication between ambassadors and diplomats, right? That's how we understood, right? And now, when we talk about diplomacy, it is also taking two-way communication. It has been transformed to two-way communication, as it also at the same time invite opinion, views, comments, perception from the audience end, right? Audience and public end. So here we are talking about public. Now, when we are talking about deliberative democracy, it is all about public centered, not a community centered. So there is a difference between public and community at the same time. So community, the concept is also self-contained, and it is also location-based. When we are talking about public, this is an organized, heterogeneous community, but quite organized and self-disciplined. Okay, so when we are talking about the new public diplomacy at the same time. Public diplomacy talking about engaging and enriching experiences with the public across the nation and outside the nation. So we actually see the context is highly political. Okay, unlike this economic context, and also it is, let me tell you, it is also directed towards heterogeneous, people, heterogeneous population, heterogeneous communities. Okay, not a homogeneous group who will have an understanding of like only the positive of the nation, unlike the nation branding, because nation branding will try to create a branding of the nation, an image of the nation which will always be good. But in public diplomacy, it will also entertain the criticism about the nation. So you cannot even get rid of the criticism of the nation. The bad of the nation will also be not communicated, but in some way, not it will not be communicated by diplomats and ambassadors, but it will be communicated by the media at the same time to give a very encompassing picture, and also create an environment in which each and every public feels safe. Okay, so this is important. At the same time, we also have, there are some criteria to understand. So the kind of research that is happening in and across India, and also required to understand the public diplomacy. Traditional public diplomacy is limited at the same time across the diplomats, across the ambassadors, across the foreign secretaries and IFS officers. But we talk about public here, involvement of the public and two-way communication. So the scope of research is much more, right? At the same time, here also we see that role of new media is very, very important to understand the consular diplomacy. In consular diplomacy, new media practice, digital media practices are much more vibrant, than other kind of diplomacy. We have cultural diplomacy. So in terms of projecting the cultural images and also digital archive, like creating a digital archive to project the images of the nations, to project the culture of the nation, is also a kind of cultural diplomacy. And how digital medium is used to even to enhance the image of the culture, to also improve the image of the culture of a nation. Okay, but at the same time, we also say when we talk about the nation, what is nation? Nation is all about our, same heritage, same destiny, same goal, right? When we are actually seeking for statehood, but that statehood, although we are seeking for statehood, we can also live independently. But when we are talking about the state concept is different, where we get to see a set of disposition institutions, right? As well as you see people, disposition institution, people, which will help a government to exist. Right, and also international recognition is very, very important. It is indispensable factor for a state. Okay, so here in nation branding, we are not talking about state basically, territory and the people. We are talking about the nation. We are talking about our history. We are talking about common history, talking about common heritage, talking about our common culture. So, when you're talking about 5,000 years civilization, that will culminate in, we talk about freedom fighters, we talk about classical dances, we talk about classical music. Okay, we also talk about cuisine, Indian cuisine. Okay, we talk about yoga. Okay, so these are some of the heritage which help us to, which also help to, you say, revamp the image of the nation. So we are talking about something which is common for all across the India in nation branding, and it has a consumerist end. It is many times scholar also said that nation branding is a part of public diplomacy. Yeah, but the scope of nation branding is limited in that way. So it is not ongoing, because it is also campaign driven. At the same time, we talk about Incredible India, that is also a kind of nation branding campaign. So it is also, you see, it's a campaign driven, and it is usually funded by even the private sectors to persuade the foreign audience. Okay, and you also see that it always target the consumers who try to consume messages, try to consume the videos. Okay, so that is one thing, and it has a logo, it has a slogan. So these are the tactics which are used in the nation branding, and also you have these various trade unions, trade forums, chamber of commerce, and tourist and travel. They actually acted upon in branding instead of these diplomats. But in public diplomacy, we have this government secretaries, foreign secretaries, journalists, media person. You have the Ministry of External Affairs, Ministry, mm, who will be foreign secretaries will be playing a role, uh, predominant role in creating that perception at the same time. Both way we get to see that perception has been created, but goal is a bit different and context is different. Context is depoliticized in nation building and context is politicized in public diplomacy. Okay, but both will create a kind of perception about the nation. Now you see that when you are talking about digital diplomacy, so as I have already told you that we have another different types of diplomacies, a cultural diplomacy that could also be highlighted even through the digital archive. We also need to study about digital archive. It's very, very important. Uh, so perhaps about that we can discuss later. So that is one thing. And what we have, you see, consular diplomacy that is used digital media during the time of crisis and during the time of war. Uh, and how they have used the digital media is that they also made an announcement to those who are staying outside to even enroll into that ministry portal of this embassy, and at the same times also coming into an ongoing chat with the ministry, and ministry will help them even in evacuation when there is a crisis situation. And accordingly, you see that with the help of digital media, India has evacuated more than 1716, I think that this NRI from Libya, then from even you see this Gaza, from Egypt, yeah, from Egypt more than 670 have been evacuated. Okay, so everything has happened because of digital media. Because we cannot say that without digital media it would not have been happening, but digital media made it easier to get that task done. So that is one thing. And when you are talking about the digital diplomacy, it is all about government Twitter handle. If you study the Twitter handle, it has got extensive reach, and reach is more than billion. Uh, Twitter handle of this PM Modi, Twitter handle, his personal Twitter handle and his official Twitter handle, if you see, and it reach across the world. And the growth of this account is also organic. It is said that it is organic, so it is not driven by any kind of bot or algorithm. So that is interesting at the same time, because that Modi is the third most liked person across the world after Obama and Pope. And how far it is organic, I also don't know, but yeah, it is organic. At the same time, it is mentioned that the growth is organic. So in terms of liking, in terms of sharing that page, and when Modi win the election, he said India own. That was also retweeted. That is very interesting. It is retweeted so many times that it has also created a record, world record. I forgot what kind of record it has created, but it has created a record. And the most interesting policy of BJP government is that I'm telling you that they, right from the very beginning, they are making everything public. Their policy is to making everything public and connecting with the public. Not making everything public, but connecting with the public is their policy, and that too through social media. Now you see that kind of innovations they have also entertained and also established in media, in Ministry of Information, Ministry of External Agency. So you could actually see that ebook has been published. India Perspective, a magazine, has been published. Okay. Then also you get to see there is a provision of bi-monthly interaction with the spokesperson of ministries of external affairs. Okay, so that is a bi-monthly interaction. So with the interval of after an interval of 2 months, you can have an interaction with the spokesperson of different mission. So that is an interesting endeavor at the same time. As a public, you can also have an understanding about how foreign policies are formulated and what is the progress and how it is happening. So that is interesting, right? And also you see that there's a SAMIP that is also interesting. SAMIP as a MEEP, SAMIP. That is another initiative to create an interactive forum between students and like a MEA mission. So India has several missions. More than 172 missions have got online. Now it is labeled under a standard and verified account, India in mission, like that way. If you go through, so visit that MEA website to understand the digital diplomacy part. So without visiting that website, it is futile to understand this digital diplomacy. You visit that MEA website, so you'll get to find some of the innovations that government has made in terms of digital diplomacy. And then India Global Radio is another initiative. Global Radio, um, and where interaction and consultation with its mission has been actually discussed. That is also another initiative. And we also see that Madat is also a portal through which we get to see that Madat portal, the foreign students can register and even they can that vent out their grievances. Madat is also a portal which is meant for this. Okay. Uh, like that way, we could also see during Yoga Day when Facebook is repleted with these photos and the pictures. It's a kind of role of like digital technology in conducting the diplomacy because it is giving a visibility and reach to uh, the effort and also giving a visibility to one culture and that cultural epitome that is yoga, right? uh, so like that way you could actually understand and what is another interesting point is Modi's unorthodox experiment with different kind of bottle. uh, this is unorthodox experiment because there is also a tendency to create much more uh, interaction and also engagement with young and fresh mind. So that is another policy. So they are actually targeting the diaspora. Diaspora is another public. They're actually investing on diaspora. More than investment, they're asking diaspora to help in development project in India because diaspora remittances is also more, they're contributing in remittances at the same time. So government is asking 25 million diasporas are there. So and the strength behind this number is huge. So government asking the diaspora community to contribute on development project at the same time, uh, so that our economy could also enhance. And is targeting this youth basically to get the food bank. This is also in a way to get because this is also very interesting at the same time and giving them the opportunity and direct communication with the youth to understanding their psyche, their mind is interesting. So uh, these are some of the dimensions. Okay. Okay. Then okay, this is it for today.